Hi everyone, today I'm going to show you how to do the assembly on the card that is your base card that you have to work from for this month's Community Create Challenge. I've already cut all my pieces, so it'll make this a little bit faster. I'm going to be using my brayer to help make sure I've got my glue spread out nice and even. I'll be using a bone folder for all of my score lines. And I'll be using my Cosmic Shimmer glue in my Sweet Petunia glue press. Let's move all of our pieces so we can see what we have. Okay, so this right here is your card base, and it's essentially a Z-fold. You probably can't see it, but I do have my score lines on there. So this middle score line, or well, close to the middle, is going to go this way. So I'm just going to gently fold, and then before I crease it, I'm going to make sure that it's straight. Okay, and then the other score line goes the opposite direction, and I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to kind of look at it and make sure it's actually straight before I put the crease in it. Okay, there we go. Now you have your Z-fold. This is your card base. Okay, now we have, these are going to be your little step pieces, and each one of these has 3 score lines. They're in different places, but they're all of them have 3 score lines. Okay, so the side where you have the 2 short score lines together, or well, not short, but narrow, they're going to go to your right. So we're going to start with this biggest one, and everything is going to be a mountain fold. Now you may not see your score lines really well, but if you just kind of slightly bend your paper, usually the score line will grab. Okay, so each one of your pieces should look like that. Okay, that's the first one. Now we're going to do the medium one. And if you really want these lines crisp, you can absolutely use your bone folder, but I'm going to do that at the end after I've attached them, just to make sure that they're all nice and square. Okay, we're going to do our last one here. Okay, so when you're done, it should basically look like that. Okay, now we don't want to glue any of these in yet. We want to get all of our base pieces together and get all of our decorative pieces on before we start attaching. Okay, so let's start with this biggest one. So your base pieces on all 3 of these are going to be on what would be considered the top, which would be this side right here. So I'm going to lay it flat just to make it a little bit easier. And then these, well, you can't see that. Let me do this. These are my decorative pieces. This is from one of the Cricut pattern papers that they don't have anymore, unfortunately. Okay, and then we're going to look. So this one is obviously for this piece. This one is the smallest one and will go here. But I have one more layer. This one's going to go underneath. I have one more layer that goes on each of these. So the smallest one is going to go here. And this is Cricut's True Brushed paper. I absolutely love the look of this True Brushed paper. And it looks like this one is going to fit right here. And then this one, it's going to seem like you've got an extra piece, but you actually don't, because it's going to go right here. And then this piece will go on top of that. So let's do this one first, just so we can get it out of the way. You don't need a ton of glue when you're using one of the premium craft glues. Generally speaking, less is more. Okay, now I'm just going to center this the best I can, which probably won't be great. Okay, I'm going to put it down, and then I'm going to grab my brayer. Now the reason I'm using my brayer on these is because when you do that, it helps spread the glue out and helps you from seeing any little ridges in your paper from the glue. Especially useful if you accidentally used a little too much glue. Now in this part it won't really matter, but if you're using a paper that has a pattern on it like I am, be watchful when you get to the next step and you start gluing your pieces on that you make sure your pattern is going in the right direction. Can't tell you how many times I have failed to do that and ended up putting on pieces upside down. Okay, now we have one more. Okay, that's our last one. Now, just to make this a little bit easier on myself, I'm going to go ahead and do this bigger one for this front panel. This is going to go at your far left edge. And you, of course, could also use double-sided tape here. You don't have to use glue. Now we'll go with this next biggest piece. And remember to check your folds. You should have one to the left and your two to the right. There's that one. Now this one is our medium one. Okay, and then we'll do our small one. I will also have the link for this project for the blank base in the description of the video to make it easier for you to find. Okay, now we have those base pieces. Okay, now I have made this mistake before. Don't do what I did. So before you glue these pieces inside, you need to make sure that this panel is complete. So for that panel, we have one big piece, and then we have our piece that goes on top of that. Now it's really important on this big piece to make sure you get it pressed down really well. And I know it looks like I'm using a ton of glue, but this glue press has a super fine point on it. So it's hardly putting down any glue at all. If you can see that. this one in place. Make sure we're going the right direction. And then once again, we're going to really press that down. Okay, and then we have one more piece that needs to go right here. Then we need to add our decorative piece to the top of that. Make sure you're going in the right direction. Oh, it moved. Okay, now I also have a decorative piece that goes on the back that's going to contain my sentiment. So I'm going to flip this over just like this so that I don't accidentally get it upside down. So for this one, you're once again going to have your really big piece of your silver. And this one is the same size as the one on the front, so you don't have to worry about mixing them up. That is unless, of course, you change something. If you get a little glue that squishes out like I did, you can usually catch it with your fingernail and wipe it off. Okay. My last piece is my actual sentiment piece. This True Brush paper is kind of porous. So I am going to add quite a bit of glue to this one. My line is still thin. I'm just going to scribble more than I normally would. Get it as close to the center as I can. This is all Cricut cardstock, by the way. And I did my sentiment with some Star Wars images in Design Space. The font I used here is the Mustache font, and I used my Cricut foil tool. Isn't that awesome? And this font down here is Alyssa Script. Okay, so now we have our basic card put together. Now this is where you have to be careful and really pay attention. Okay, so what I'm doing is I'm folding it so I have one whole extra crease over here. And I'm going to set this in the middle, or at least where I think is the middle. Just like that. And you're going to kind of fold your end down because you want to make sure it actually folds. You can kind of look at it here too to make sure that you're straight. You're basically butting it right up against that score line. Okay, that looks good. And you're going to hold it in place and then grab your glue and glue this whole left edge. Now be careful here. Don't use too much glue at the very edges because you don't want it to accidentally squish out and glue your face of your card down. Now keep your fingers on it. And you're going to fold this flap over. Depending on the glue you're using, you might want to give that just a second to make sure it's seated. Okay, that looks like it's down really well. Okay, so now this piece we have to glue down to this piece. Because what you're going to do when it's done is it's going to stand up just like this. So what we want to do is fold it down so that your little flap is the one that's sticking out, like so. And we're going to add glue to that. And again, be careful getting too close to the very edge because you don't want the glue to stick out and then you've stuck your front to your back. Okay, with this little piece folded down, we're going to very carefully place it down and push. And then just to make sure that my card still folds, I'm also going to do this and make sure that it goes down. Isn't that cool? Okay, now we need to do our next piece. This one's going to be the exact same way. I'm just going to fold this in half. And then I'm going to get it as close to the center as I can. And be real careful here because it's easy to accidentally go under this flap a little bit. And if you do that, your card is going to squeak. Let's see. Maybe just a little bit higher. Okay, and this is the same thing. We're going to put glue on this one larger flap over here on this side. I got over the edge here, so I'm going to wipe that off. This is why I didn't worry too much about using my bone folder when I was folding these pieces because they're going to get brayered a lot. Okay, now the same thing. This piece is going to go just like the other one did, just like this. So we're going to pick it up and we're going to get glue on this edge. And again, with your card basically open, you're going to grab it and fold it under and then stick it down. And then I'll use my brayer again to make sure it's stuck really well. And then I'm going to fold my card the other way and make sure that it's still stuck and that my card still lays flat. Now you might want to wait an extra second or two if your glue doesn't dry as fast as mine does. Okay. Now this one can be a little bit harder because it's smaller. Okay, this one looks like I need to go up just a tiny bit. I don't think I've ever gotten anything truly even in my entire life, so this is probably off center. Again, I'm going to brayer it just to give it some pressure. You can totally do that with your fingers. You're probably going to get just as good of a job done that way. Okay. Now this one is a little bit harder because it is smaller. You want it to end up like this. So we're going to do the same thing again. Okay, you're going to fold both of these score lines under. Okay, and we're going to press. And we want to do that same thing again. We're going to open it real gentle. Make sure it lays flat, and it does. And we're going to brayer that down again. Okay, now for my card, I have one last piece. You have a couple of layers for this piece in your file. I'm only using the one. And this piece needs to go here, or at least on mine, it's going to go right here. I think I'm going to bring mine right to the edge of where my true brush paper is. And I'm just going to kind of make note of how far out my glue needs to be. As a matter of fact, I think I'm just going to put a little stream of glue right here and a little stream of glue right here. And then we're just going to kind of guess on the back and hope we don't make it too wide. And I'm just making sure that it's lined up along that edge. You can put your guys' wherever you want. You can put it down here or over here or on this flap. It's really up to you. Okay, now I'm going to close my card just so that I can use my brayer to really press on that. And there you go. Isn't that neat? You could do so much to this. You could add embellishments. You could add sequins, rhinestones, whatever you want. And this is a 5x7 card and will fit in a standard 5x7 envelope. I hope these instructions help you out, and happy crafting!